Just random little white bunny. And there's a black bunny over there. And another one. I don't ever just see rabbits around here. That's very strange. Does someone just like let all their pet bunnies out or something?
What's up, dude?
They're big too.
Those Kansas, there's no forest around here for them to come from.
There's something kind of creepy about that.
That one's scared or something. That one looks younger.
Uh-huh. That's smaller. Those other two are just looking at us. That is strange.
Okay.
What's going on, everyone? So this is just a little follow-up to the clip that I just played. And I'm recording this the next day after. Today is January 11th, 2022. But the clips that the clip that you just saw was from yesterday, January 10th. And I'm basically just going to tell you what happened after that. After we saw those two black rabbits and one rabbit on the curb on the side of the road in the grass. When I got back home after I was dropped off, because I was actually in the car with my dad, and I was visiting family over at his house, and he was on his way to drop me back off over here where I'm currently at. And when we got here, there was actually a car parked on the side of this house, which there oftentimes is, for various nefarious reasons, usually monitoring or whatever it is that they're doing out there. I don't know exactly, but it's something evil and sick, But when we got here, there was a car parked on the side of the road. Didn't recognize the vehicle, didn't recognize anybody in the vehicle. But as we pulled up into the driveway, I could get a good look that someone in the passenger seat was eyeing us, kind of, craning their head, just trying to, I guess, see if we noticed that they were there. And so when I got inside the house, I talked about it with my father for a little bit. I was like, it's kind of weird, there's a car there. So he decided that he was gonna, pull back around, pull into the driveway, and kind of sit there and watch them, see what they do. But what I was gonna do was, since they were closer to the backyard than they were to the front yard, I was gonna go through the backyard and hop over the fence and surprise them real quick. Take a little video, ask them what's going on, because right from the get-go, it's obvious that this is some kind of activity. Because what isn't? When you're being targeted 24/7, you don't have time for this coincidence bullshit to where, some things are clearly, obviously targeting, and other things are just a coincidence. No, you don't have time for that. There is no such thing as a coincidence. In the Hebrew language, there isn't a word for coincidence. Because back then, when they had a bit more sense, and they weren't completely brainwashed, they didn't have time to attribute things to meaning absolutely nothing when they clearly meant something. So, back to the point. I went into the backyard. I hopped over the fence. I had my camera out. But you know what happened? As soon as I hopped over that fence, the person who was in the passenger seat of the car was already halfway down the sidewalk. They weren't leaving when we got there. No, they weren't leaving as we were getting there, before we got there. No, right as I hopped over the fence ready to confront them, that's when the person in the passenger seat is already halfway down the sidewalk, and the person in the driver's seat is starting the car and taking off. What a coincidence, huh? They're sitting there as we approach, or as I'm getting home, but the moment that I go to approach them, they want to take off. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Almost sounds like that's psychological harassment. Anyways, I jump over the fence, and I'm basically like, hey, where y'all going, man? I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to know what's going on out here. And so the person drives off in the car, doesn't even look at me, doesn't even turn their head to even acknowledge me. Actually looking down at their phone, because that's where they're getting their orders from. As soon as I probably stepped out into the backyard, they got that order that was like, all right, he's coming into the backyard. He's probably going to go over the fence, take off. And so that's exactly what happened. But I could still approach the person that was walking out of the car. And so I was like, "Hey man, where you going?" And he's kind of turning around, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, where you going?" But you can tell he's just kind of playing it off, pretending as if he's surprised that I'm there, because he knew that I was coming. That's why he was out of there. And he's like, "What's going on, man?" And then he turns around, and lo and behold, this is somebody that I know. This is somebody who's lived in this neighborhood for a while, and is actually the child. Well, he's not a child. He's a grown man now. But as I was growing up, he was a child, as I was, and he actually was the child of one of the neighbors around here. One of the neighbors who still lives here, and is also in on this. So isn't that a surprise? Not really. But anyways, I'm approaching him. And as I'm walking up to him, I'm like, "Oh, it's you." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, what's up, crazy man?" That's what he says to me. He calls me crazy man. And then I'm like, "You're the crazy one, man. Just sitting parked out here at like 12 to 1 a.m. just right outside the house and taking off right as I'm approaching you." I'm like, "You're the crazy one, man. That's kind of weird." And he's just laughing and laughing it off, pretending like this isn't a weird situation. He's not stopping to talk to me for a second. No, he is out of there just trying to walk as quickly as he can, power walk out of there. But my dad, who's still in the driveway, stops him, and he's just like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And they have a conversation. And of course, because my father is not privy to what's going on, he's still asleep to this whole harassment thing. He is aware of lots of things going on in this world. Me and my immediate family almost entirely, against the jab, against the snake bite, and we're not going to get it, not going to take it. And so they're awake to that degree, but they still don't see every nook and cranny of the deception, the evil that's around us. And so they still believe that there's good and lots of people, and do not realize that we are surrounded by murderers, that we are surrounded by compromised individuals, that everyone in this neighborhood and city around us are like hungry wolves that want to kill us. They don't get that part yet, despite all the persecution that we went through, despite everything that's happened to them, despite all the manipulation in their lives and the chaos and stuff that's happened. They still don't get it. They still don't see it. And when I try to tell them, they get possessed and get angry at me and want to deny it. But we'll get to that in a second. Anyways, he calls me crazy man. Not a nickname of mine. Not anything that any of friends have called me. Anything that I tell people to call me. But it is indicative of exactly the situation, which is that everyone around here has been brainwashed to believe that I'm some kind of mentally unstable individual, that I'm some kind of terrorist, that I'm some kind of threat to the community, as is done with most targets, and if not all targets. And so, it was funny that he would call me that, He's probably feeling threatened, he's probably feeling uncomfortable, because he just came down here to do a little job and get some money, not really concerned about how this would affect me or my life. Not that I really did, but not really realizing what he's a part of, or how many people do get killed because of the kinds of things that he's doing, and many people like him are doing. And so, yeah, it's funny that he would use those words instead of being like, "Hey, Kane," instead of being like, "Hey, man." No, it's, "Hey, crazy man." Almost like that's when he sees me, that's what's associated. That's the idea that he gets. That's the image he has in his mind, because he doesn't have any free thought. He doesn't have any free will. Is just a pawn, like all the other ones out here. And I didn't really know this guy. He never was a friend of mine. But anyways, that's what went down right after we saw those rabbits. So it was an interesting sequence of events, to see two black rabbits and one white rabbit before more synchronicity, targeting stuff, psychological harassment, which the rabbits would likely be a part of, because they were on a road that we had to pass through, that they knew that we were going to pass through, because every time I get dropped off, we go through this road. And of course, rabbits are symbolic of many things in the occult. Fertility, I'd say sacrifice, many things, just many dark things. And so I'm not going to go into it right now. But the fact that they would even be there at all, and there's no woods around here. This is a very suburban area. Unless someone decided to just let out their pet rabbits at night. But I don't really ever see rabbits around here, nor do I see any of them that big. But, so I go back into the house after a little incident. My dad is just like, "Oh, I don't think he has any negative intentions, It just seems like he was out there with his girlfriend, which is what I was told, is that he was with his girlfriend that his family doesn't want him to be with, so that's why he had to walk off and be dropped off over here. It just seems like a little story because it's exactly what it is. Um, but anyways, I go back into the home. My dad didn't know what's going on, so he just takes off. But I actually talked to the homeowner in here that I live with, who I've told over the years that this has been going on. I've been very open with them about many things. I've told them about the multiple attempts on my life. I told them about the sabotage of jobs. I've told them about the stalking and harassment. Told them about the dream manipulation. Told them about the directed energy weapons that are used on me. Every aspect of this targeting I've tried to let them in on and tell them about. And over the years, they were very reluctant to even receive the information, but it's very clear now that they don't fight me on most of this stuff. But some of the stuff they still argue with me on, when it is just completely asinine to sit there and listen when I tell you about so many things going on in my life, that and to not question it, even though most people would immediately attack me and tell me that I'm crazy or something along those lines, and then to still deny the smallest of things, which should be obvious at this point, because of the fact that the person associated with what I'm talking about is somebody that we quote unquote know, even though we don't really know them. So I tell them that I'm pretty sure this was another aspect of this day-to-day 24/7 harassment, and that even though you may know this guy because he's a friend, he's a child of your neighbors, and he's been here a while, that doesn't mean that you actually know him. And they were just so adamant on arguing with me about this that it's like, oh yeah, what are the oh, you think he would be doing something? And it's just ridiculous, because it's like, we don't know him. He's not our friend. He doesn't bake us cookies and bring him to us every day. He's not out here preaching the gospel or trying to help us with anything. This is just some random dude. And some random dude that we don't know, but's lived in this neighborhood with us for a while, would easily take up a job for some money. Especially because I know about this guy's history, and I know the kinds of things he's gotten up to. He's got multiple baby mamas. He's got lots of things that he's responsible for, lots of jail time, stuff along those lines. And so it's pretty obvious that he wanted some quick cash, and this is his way of doing it. But anyways, it's not just him. In fact, I've had, have you seen in my videos, family members, a person who's in this current house as I'm recording this video, who lives with me, involved in this, ex-military, someone who clearly is involved in this by what you can see in the videos, and who I've captured demons manifesting on this person's face. You can see it in the video. You can see their face shapeshift, because that's what's happening. Even though they're incentivized to do this, through financial gain and power and status and things of that nature. It's also demonic, because that's what's going on here. This is the end times we're in, and these people are possessed by demons. I mean, at this point, if you don't get that, then you're just blind, and you're not prepared for anything. Because you got to recognize what your enemy is. And the enemy is not flesh and blood. It's a spirit. And these people are weak. They're weak-minded. Doesn't matter if you grew up with them. Doesn't matter if they were friends for your life. Once you become a target, once you wake up, once you realize you're marked by God, and the enemy realizes that you realize that, and he comes after you, doesn't matter who you thought you knew. If they weren't of God themselves, they're going to turn against you. And even the people who you think are of God can still turn against you. Because you're not relying on people here. Man will ultimately fail you. God, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, however you want to refer to him as, whatever name, whatever interpretation, he is the one that you put your trust in. He's the one that I put my trust in. I don't trust in man. I don't put my trust in friends, family, or any of that. I mean, obviously I have to rely on certain family to get along. And luckily I still have family that I can trust in my life. But you just don't want to put them before God, because he's the only one that's going to help you get through this. Doesn't matter what you believe. Doesn't matter if you're angry at God. Doesn't matter if you feel like He's betrayed you because you've gone through this. Because you're going through this for a reason. You're not meant to have a life like the sleepers. You're not meant to have their kind of life. I'm not meant to have their kind of life. That's not what we're here for. This is a test, a fiery trial that we have to overcome. Be happy that you're not like them. But anyways, I've had betrayal by many friends and family. In fact, I'll give you a few accounts here. So I have a childhood friend that actually I met in this neighborhood when I was probably around 9 to 10, and so I've known the past decade or so. And of course, when this all popped off and I started getting targeted, less and less of my friends, because I actually had a pretty decent friend circle and several people that I knew and would hang out with that I didn't really have any issues with. They had started dwindling off and speaking to me less and less and contacting me less and less. And I've always been a person that's just kept to myself and doesn't really reach out because I'm an introvert. And because generally I don't need other people. I enjoy company by myself. I enjoy time to myself. And if I'm ever uncomfortable with being by myself for too long, then I'll reach out. But it's just funny that even though I've always been like that, these people would always contact me. But when I start getting targeted, suddenly nobody contacts me anymore. I just find that incredibly interesting. It's almost like they were approached. It's almost like they were told to not contact me anymore. Anyways, one friend, the one that I was just talking about that I've known since I was around 9 to 10, I've had one of these people who doesn't contact me anymore, who doesn't speak to me or anything like that. Sorry, my video got cut off. I ran out of storage space. I really got to upload some of these older videos I have. Anyways, since I don't know how much time I have, I'm just going to finish what I was talking about. This friend that I'm speaking of, I remember one time late at night while I was staying at my dad's house when I was living over there and I wasn't where I'm at currently, I actually was riding my bike back to the house late at night, probably 12 to 2 a.m. because I was over here helping out with some stuff. And this friend I'm talking about, just comes around a corner at a four-way intersection and has their head sticking out the window, just in case I didn't notice that it was them, and I'm just like, hey, what's going on, man? And it's just interesting timing. Nobody else is out here, and I run into you. And they're like, yeah, well, I'm just out here on my way somewhere, passing by you. We're the only two out here. And, they're driving their parents' vehicle and stuff. And it's just interesting that their parent would let them just drive their vehicle around 2 to 3 a.m. And then the second incident is even weirder because actually it took place right in front of the house where I'm currently living at because it was more recently. But I remember I went out to take out the trash and I opened my garage door and guess who's just sitting at the bus stop? Guess who's just there? Same person making a goofy face out the window. Like we would normally do when we were kids, goofing around and stuff. But the context here is a lot different because I don't hang out with this person anymore. And then here they are, just perfectly synchronized with me as I'm opening up the garage door. And of course I approach them and everything, and I don't start accusing them or anything. I'm able to keep my cool in these situations and just assess what's going on and try to get information. And I'm just asking them, like, man, it's crazy that you're out here. Are you just passing through or what? And it's like, yeah, I'm just passing through and staring at your garage door before you open it with a funny look on my face, just sitting at the stop sign. And then they even have a little story. They're like, oh yeah, well, I'm meeting up with some friends to watch a movie this weekend. You want to come along? And it's just like, well, you didn't call me? You didn't think to text me? You just happened to be waiting? You didn't even knock on the door. You just happened to be waiting in front of the house to ask me this. It's kind of strange. And so my whole point is, friends, family, whoever, if they're weak, if they're not of God, they will give in to this stuff, especially if they're threatened or especially if they feel like they're going to be singled out because of this. So only trust those who are of God. Only put your trust in God and don't look for trust in man. And realize that money is their incentive. And if it isn't that, then it's social status or other things. And behind all of it is demonic spirits possessing them. Do not take the snake bite. Don't take the COVID 19 vaccine, because you will be damned. That is the mark of the beast. It's not a precursor. We're in the end times. We're running out of time here. God bless you. Do not take it.